I want to do something that I wasn't priorly going to do, which is give my overall point of view and perspective on how I think Neil O'Shea and the Portland Trailblazers have done this offseason. And to start, it could have gone endlessly better, but instead it went down the toilet so fast. And the sole reason was because Neil O'Shea and the rest of the staff decided to listen to one Damian Lillard. It's so frustrating to know that even though he is the player, he has the keys to the franchise, he's running the dang thing, it's the GM's job to take that advice. But if they know better, which Neil O'Shea would have, to tell, in this case, Damian, yeah, okay, you took your idea, we took a bunch of other ideas, we really molded them all, and the best option for us is not taking on what you suggested. We understand why you want that, but it's not lucrative enough for us to pull off. We need to, if you really want to have better progress, there's two options that we have on the table, and the first one is the one we are planning on executing, and we will now execute, even though this is not what you requested for us to do for the team. Instead, Neil O'Shea didn't do that at all, so he didn't do his job. Instead, he let Damian make the choices for him, in place of him, as if Damian was the GM for the Trailblazers, and decided he was going to listen to Damian, which was to make a trade, whatever they could, to get themselves quite a bit higher up in the draft. And instead of getting quite a bit higher up, they traded the 15th and 20th that we had for the 10th pick. So we went up 5 spots for the two 15th and 20th first round picks, which already is telling you that's a pretty bad deal, especially even though 10 doesn't get you the rest of the players that are great, and even if it did, that wouldn't really fit what we could do, because the top players in this draft really weren't anything that we were in desperate need of, because the main thing we've needed has been a power forward, a true, real power forward. We really need one that can actually do good consistently. Noah Vonleh shows that he can do very well, and proved he can do very well, playing alongside Jusuf Nurkic. But once Jusuf Nurkic is out of the lineup, he suddenly is back to Noah Vonleh rookie year, where he struggles and he doesn't seem to be confident at all, and seem to know why he's on the court. I want to be able to see him finally break out and stay consistent and become a star power forward, or at least a incredibly high quality starter caliber player. But so far it doesn't seem like he's going to be doing that. Also, Mo Harkless, we are all hoping, finally takes that next step that he should have taken last season. Same with Noah. We'll see. We still have Jusuf Nurkic, which is a huge thing, obviously, and major. He's so dedicated to using his social media feeds, mainly Instagram and Twitter, to post pictures of him post-workout, during workout, even pre-workouts. He's super dedicated to not only getting back to where he was, but getting so much further ahead of that, so that he's toned up, he's bulked down, so that he has more muscle and less of the excess weight he shouldn't have had. That really obviously put that stress on his fibula when he snapped it. We have a lot of good things with him going, and he's conditioning himself and strengthening himself so much, which is huge, because obviously he's already was really just tough as an ox. Took hits, still was able to finish layups with a lot, really heavy contact in traffic. He was postering people here and there. He has a great touch, just really anywhere from 15 feet and in. He's an all-around astounding player. He already had a lot of strength because he could out-bully a lot of the stronger players in the league at center and power forward positions, and yet here he is getting stronger, getting more toned up, more bulk in terms of muscle mass, and getting rid of the excess weight and the fats and other things he had on him that clearly put the stresses like that onto his fibula and his tibia. So that's huge, obviously. But when it comes down to just the overall aspect of this offseason, the biggest mistake, in fact, my very instinctive first reaction, like no thought went into it at all, it was just the instant reaction I had instinctively to hearing, while watching the draft, seeing and hearing that Portland had traded the 15th and 20th picks to Sacramento for their 10th. I literally howled out. Normally I don't care that much, but I mean I howled in some pain about that, and I literally said, how stupid can you be? Why are you so stupid? Why did you listen to Damian at all? That was the worst choice you could have made. You God damn it, Neil, you're an idiot. That was literally word for word my very first reaction. And to this day, I stick by that. That was the stupidest decision the staff and the GMs, all that, could have made for the team. They had the entire silver platter with all the things they ever could have wanted right in front of their faces, and they said, nah, we'll listen to Damian instead. And that automatically sent all the chances of the things we needed and wanted and craved to take that next step down the drain. Like, we just basically slaughtered it, dismembered it, and then threw it to the dogs for them to eat and make disappear. It was so stupid. But if there's any silver lining to it, Caleb Swanigan, I know it is just Summer League, but he's the fourth player in Summer League history to average a double-double, points and rebounds. And in every single game, he seemed like he was the most starting caliber. Specifically, he was the most NBA ready body and mind and player overall in the entire draft class and the entire Summer League teams. He was the #1 most NBA ready by far, it looked like. I mean, nothing took his focus off the court or off the game. Nothing got under his skin. Nothing not kept him off the boards. Nothing kept him from getting putbacks. Nothing could do that. And he was so focused. He was team-oriented. He was basically a garbage man janitor, which I love that kind of player, a hustle player who hustles and does the little things, cleans it up, all the plays and all that, makes sure things are... He also showed that he actually really has a good knack for passing out of the post in sticky situations in the post, which is major, and especially us Blazers could really use that. So, if there's any silver lining, that is one. I personally have not liked what I've seen or heard from Zach Collins. I noticed that he has seemingly probably is going to have some temperament issues, especially if he gets benched for very long, or if when he gets his opportunities and he has even a minor setback like he did when he pulled his quad. It was basically equivalent to a stinger. He was going to be out for maybe 2 or 3 days at best, at most. The longest length, maybe more like a half a day to 1 day. And he acted like, and this is really a bad sign when somebody acts like Amir Johnson, but they acted exactly like Amir Johnson did, where it's like this overly dramatic, melodramatic moment of just like, I hate everything. And it's like, dude, we know you want to be playing, but seriously, what the heck is wrong with you? You don't need to react like that. If that was in Summer League, he probably would have gotten a technical because of that. Like, even if it's not directed at anybody, it's just frustration. If you're that frustrated, you're gonna be heaving something at the floor, even if it's just your towel, and showing you're very furious about something. You're probably gonna get called for attack. You have to keep your emotions in check, and it reminded me so much of Amir Johnson, because the littlest things can set Amir Johnson off. Like, don't get me wrong, I love Amir Johnson as a player. When he's level-headed and he keeps his cool, he's actually very, very underrated, very valuable cleanup guy and player, and kind of glue guy. But when he loses it, which is pretty frequently, the guy can go completely off his rocker. For Amir Johnson, that Zach Collins moment was for Amir would have been very minor, but it still probably would have resulted in an attack. Whereas with Amir, I mean, we have the famous incident here in Portland where he got so pissed that he not only did at one technical, that he got have quick another technical, which means he got ejected, which means he got even more melodramatically angered about it, cussed out, yelled. The referee was starting to get up a little bit into it because of the fact he was not tolerating his crap, and then he pulled out, as soon as the referee turned around, he pulled out his mouthpiece and he said some other set of bullcrap to him, and he heaved his mouthpiece at him and nailed the ref in the back of the head, which, hey, give Amir credit, that was precision aim there on that toss, because he hit him dead in the middle of the head in the back. I mean, that was perfect, and he wasn't even paying enough attention to aim properly, so that, I mean, you gotta give him credit for that. Anyway, aside the point is, that's the kind of emotional player Amir Johnson is. You don't want, especially a young gun who can develop into, who you want to try and help develop into a starting caliber power forward and or center. You do not want that guy to be an Amir Johnson with the emotions, because then they're limiting their own potential and ability to progress. It's not good, and plus it hurts the team, obviously. Anybody who gets taken out of the lineup, even if they haven't gotten any playing time yet, it's gonna hurt, especially considering if somebody does get physically injured and has to come out, and you were gonna be pulled in if that happened, and say it did happen right after you got ejected, now what? Now they have to go to somebody else if you can have that person left. There's just so many things that are so important about that, and so that's what I don't like about Zach Collins, is he seems like he needs to learn how to get his emotions in check, because he lets loose way too easily, and he's a little overly dramatic about it. That's from my observance, my point of view of that. And so far, they haven't been able to sign anybody. The Paul George thing, apparently, it was like went way under the radar for actual NBA teams. But Paul George to Blazers was a trade that, if you pay attention to Woj and to Zach and a few other news and columnists and all that, they pointed out that the Blazers, obviously Casey Holdall, specifically Jason Quick here, pointed out that during draft day, the Blazers attempted to trade players. They specifically mentioned players, not player, and then when it was reiterated the question, they said players again, which means that it was plural. Probably Allen Crabbe and Meyers Leonard, considering those were the only two that were actually openly shopped. Like, as soon as they could say, they're on the table, please give bids, they did it. They're like, and you're on the table. Because Allen Crabbe does not produce remotely enough, or remotely consistently enough. There's not remotely enough proof that he's worth even half his contract value, honestly. Especially coming off the bench. And he lacks the confidence, whereas Meyers Leonard, nobody wants him! Everybody here in Portland, pretty much every single person is like, the last name we want to hear, still on our team by the start of this coming season, is Meyers Leonard. Get him the hell off the team. And it's so funny, because I wished I actually recorded it, and I thought about it, but I didn't do it, and now, damn it, I wish I did. But I called it before I quoted a tweet from Meyers Leonard, making a sarcastic comment to what the tweet was talking about. I called it. I said, now, I'm going to make a sarcastic comment to this. This tweet is simply him saying that hey, I'm working out right now down in San Diego. And, with a picture. And so I said, sarcastically in the quote, I said, before that, I said, watch, I'm going to be blocked because this is a sarcastically snide crack at him and his game. Which technically it's also true. It's a very true but jokingly honest thing. In other words, fix it because you suck, nobody wants you here. That's kind of a fact. You don't like to admit it. You pretend you live in your own world where you're only loved by everybody. And you're one of the best players. In reality, you do not belong anywhere close to the NBA. You're so clueless. So what I said was, oh, hey, great. Could you please, maybe stay down there for us Portland fans, well, forever. That's what I said in the quoting the tweet there. And like 5 hours later, and by that point it had about 30 impressions. So 30 people had scrolled past the tweet, basically. Nobody else had seen it. Meyers goes out of his way as the 31st impression to catch the tweet, notice that he's quoted, looks at the tweet, and then blocks me as a result because he got pissed. He blocks anybody and everybody who doesn't only do positive. It reminds me of Donald Trump. If you don't say only positive, supportive things, he blocks you instantly. It can be neutral, but because he thinks that there's a certain tone or there's a certain underlying point or thing you're trying to say that might be even remotely suggestively negative, blocked automatically. He does not tolerate anybody who doesn't fully support him in his game and tell him he's amazingly talented. And that means if you're blatantly honest, he's going to block you instantly, which is, dude, stop being a clueless idiot and start actually showing that you deserve to exist, let alone college basketball and NBA basketball. Because right now you can't even fit in the D-League, you're so clueless. If you're bluntly honest with him, even in a little more respectful manner than that, he's going to block you. That's 100% guarantee. He will auto-block you. And I could not have been more amused. It made my entire day and night that night. And it's still, I'm so giddy about the fact that I called it and he blocked me. The stupidest thing is, that's why I feature the 30 impressions and him being the 31st, is the fact that those are people that scroll past the tweet and that registers as them seeing it, but in reality it doesn't mean that they stopped and looked at the tweet and read it. It's simply somebody has, at least 30 people have scrolled past this tweet. So likely it is, and I know my own tweets, but likely it is, nobody looked at it. Nobody stopped to read it or anything. So the only one person who did that was Meyers Leonard. He stopped, noticed it as the 31st impression, and this has been up all day, since pretty much the time, in fact, from the time he tweeted it, like about 5 minutes after he tweeted it, I quoted that. He comes back late that evening, and this is like around noon. It's like 7 or 8, and he's the 31st impression by that point. So like everybody has scrolled past it anyway. Nobody cared about it. He cares enough because he looks at it to make sure it's not negative, or at least it's supportive. Otherwise, he's going to block, and he notices negative, so he blocks automatically. It's like, okay, nope. Like he doesn't want to see that stuff, so he blocks you. But at the same time, he's out searching for those specific tweets, so he can block. So he ends up inadvertently pissing himself off anyway to then block people that say things that aren't positive about him. So basically, in the end, to simplify this and cut myself off from blabbing for more than this 30 minutes I've been doing it, well actually about 25, is I do not like at all, I completely disapprove of what the Trailblazers have done this offseason. It's mind-boggling, it hurts, it burns my brain to even try and comprehend it, which seems impossible to comprehend. It's illogical, it's stupid. There's no way in hell anybody could ever convince me that that was a smart decision to listen to Damian. I don't care who you are, you're never going to convince me. That was the stupidest, not the smart, not any, there was no smarts in that. There was no logic in that. That was the least logical, least intelligent decision they could have made. They shot themselves in both feet, and both knees, and both hips, and are expecting to keep walking on their legs somehow. And we all know that's not how that works. So, as a Blazers fan first, obviously, this killed me. As soon as I heard this was happening, I'm like, we're done. We fried ourselves already. We put ourselves in the oven at 350 degrees, baked and basted ourselves beyond charbroiled to where we became ashes, and then we decided we're going to toss ourselves into the stratosphere so we can implode on ourselves and cease to exist any longer. It's not a good offseason to be a Blazer fan, I'll give you that much. I mean, sure, Sixer fans can say, well, it's not Sam Hinkie. Yeah, it's not. You're right. It's also not David Kahn levels when we had him. This is a painful offseason. So basically, we're stuck with the exact same team we had last season going into this season. Which means this is what we're doing. We're slamming our heads against the same wall we've been slamming it on for the last 2 seasons. Again. Because we listen to Damian in this case. So we have 2 new players. Big whoopity-doo-dah. Where does that put us? Does it put us any further than we were last season? Hell no. So at that point, what Neil O'Shea and the rest of the team are relying on is for Damian, CJ, and Yusuf Nurkic to actually be that much more vastly improved than they have been. That means that Damian and CJ have got to have figured out some kind of offensive variety so they aren't exact clones to each other, so that teams automatically don't have to even scout them. They already know exactly how to defend them, what to do, and how to do it. You have to have that offensive variety. Therefore, one of them or both of them have had to add moves that are different from each other that they're going to use fairly often next season to throw people off. And then, most importantly, they're going to have to learn how to defend, let alone give proper efforts consistently, but to stick to their guy, to be able to actually properly defend, be aware, have a high IQ in the defensive situations, and actually be able to shut people down rather than, oh, whoops, he walked by me. I mean, yeah, it's not as bad as James Harden, where he literally won't even attempt to defend. It is the biggest squeal and squawk in my entire life is learn how to defend, learn how to have defensive awareness, defensive IQ of a decent to high level, and willingness to actually play the damn defensive end of the ball. Those are the things that they have to learn, and they never have in the entire time they've been in the league. And it's starting to slowly wear on my nerves, because everybody's like, oh, they have improved so much. Damian didn't improve at all last season. Like, I 100% agree with, this is going to sound really stupid, because, yeah, it's a video game, so you don't really, I mean, they have a heavily analytical system they base it on, with even the stats that don't get listed on stat sheets. 2K does that. But with NBA 2K, I 100% agree with 2K Sports when they said that Damian is still an 89. In other words, I agree with the fact they did not improve him. And they didn't disimprove him, because he had pretty much the equivalent to the season he had season before last, rather than this last season. This last season he had the equivalent to the season before. The exact equivalent. Like, he didn't improve in anything at all. He didn't really slacken anything at all from where he was before. He's just there. He's stationary. He's static. He can't move. He's like imprisoned himself in this box of, I've capped. I just want him to prove me wrong and prove to me and all the other haters out there, or at least critics, I should say. Because I'm not a hater, I'm just a critic of them. Like, learn to defend, for fuck's sake. That's what the team needs. Instead of trying to add defenders, how about play some defense yourself? That's a good idea, especially considering you two are the two stars, so you two are the ones who are held as the examples to the young guns, which means you need to actually start living up to that. Living up to, you're the example. You're the people, the role models that these younger people, whether they're in college yet, or they're coming into the NBA, or they're on your team, are looking up to say, okay, because right now all they're saying is, okay, offense only matters. What they need to do is learn how to defend properly and start giving full passion and heart on defense, and so that these younger people start looking at them and saying, oh yeah, both sides of the ball actually matter, don't they? Obviously, to an extent, Terry Stotts is a part of it. It's just because he's an offensive strategist. And that's basically all Terry Stotts has to his name. He's never been a defensive dude. Terry Stotts has blatantly made some pretty vast improvements on the defensive end of his coaching scouting reports. He's figured some things out. But the players, it has not shown up in the players. It's only shown up in him. And his coaching strategies, which is fantastic. I like to see that. He hasn't improved since season before last, I believe, when he really noticeably improved. So hopefully he'll improve again this season. Defensively, he'll show a lot of tactical improvements on defense. But as for the players, they need to start showing it. Specifically, Damian and CJ need to start playing some defense and showing they're capable. Because right now they're not. And that's my biggest complaint just overall about the team. So for this offseason, basically the reason why it's part of this is because basically noting that's got to be the number one thing we notice coming out of this offseason into the preseason, especially the regular season, is that these two players, CJ and Damian, our star players, our keys to the franchise owners, understand and understood, that is, and still understand that they need to consistently keep improving on defense, proving that they're willing to give 110% effort every single night, every single waking second of every single game on the defensive end. And that show that they definitely have made vast improvements in that department, and they're going to continue to keep learning and developing that. That is the most important and imperative thing that we need to see coming into this regular season and preseason, out of this offseason. So that's the number one thing that needs to happen now this offseason, is that they've got to be learning that. They got to be learning how to play defense and give a shit on defense, and actually exemplify that, hey, just because you're a big star and you're owning the keys to the franchise doesn't mean you can just sit tight and say, hey, I'm going to keep earning $140 million per year, or per 4 or 5 year period. I'm just going to sit on my ass and keep being the star. No, you got to keep working your ass off and improving anyway. That's another huge thing that a star should always point out, is like you're always going to be your own biggest critic, and therefore the only person you really have anything to prove to that you always can improve is to yourself. Especially when you're in a star position where you're in a position where your ego is probably going to inflate 1 billion times over. You need to keep that in check by keeping yourself humble and keeping yourself working your ass off to improve further than you've already been, so that you become an even bigger star. Not for the star power, but for the fact that, in other words, you're that much more capable on both ends of the floor for your team. I don't think a lot of the stars in the NBA currently do realize that a lot of times they may be their own biggest critics, and therefore that's really who they should be proving it to. I do like some players that they end up looking at like, oh, hey, I have a lot of critiques that I need to work, obviously, that people keep pointing out across the league that I really need to work on, and that they are frustrated with or disgusted with because I haven't improved them. That gives me a chip on my shoulder. I'm going to work my ass off now. And they do. They work their asses off. There's not very many, but there is a few. And I really respect those guys. They're really, really awesome. It's like Tony Allen is a good example of that. I'm just spurring off now. So I've already said what I need to say, and then some to a ridiculous extent. And therefore, I'm going to end this video here. So, if you got the gist and you enjoyed, please remember to leave a like. And feel free to join the conversation that usually each video tends to have. And let me know your point of view and your perspective on how the Blazers have done so far this offseason and what they could do to perhaps regain some validity to their offseason doings. And just say hi or whatever. I mean, give me any suggestions to improve, whatever. And yeah. So, thank you guys so much for watching. And I hope you did enjoy and you got the gist. Otherwise, stay safe, have a great day, night, wherever you are, and hope to see you in the next video, everybody. Danny Maccam out.